Think about that, that fundamental human desire we all have, that real urge to connect with each other. Doesn't matter where we are in the world, what language we speak.
Yeah, it's deep-seated, isn't it?
For centuries, though, it's been this amazing dream butting up against, well, the reality of language barriers.
Absolutely. And it's really fascinating how we've consistently looked to technology as the potential bridge builder there. I mean, the idea of a universal translator, that's been around in our imagination forever.
Right. Which brings us straight to AI. For a good while now, machine translation seemed like the promise for, seamless global communication. But I think most of us have stories, maybe we've even experienced it directly, those early attempts. They might have been technically correct, maybe word for word.
Yeah, technically.
But they ought to landed somewhere between just plain awkward and completely missing the actual meaning.
Oh, that's so true. It's kind of like trying to understand, say, poetry by just looking up each word in the dictionary. You get the pieces, but the soul of it, the intent, the cultural feeling, that just gets lost when you're only substituting words. I mean, we've all seen those funny examples, right? Restaurant menus, signs.
Totally, where the translation is just wildly off.
Wildly off, yeah.
And that brings up a really interesting question, I think. What if AI translation could actually, take a huge leap, go beyond just swapping words? What if it could become a tool for genuinely ethical communication?
Exactly. It's about moving our focus, isn't it? From just the mechanics of language swapping to the bigger picture of how we actually communicate across different cultures.
Oh, yeah.
And, recent work, discussions around things like living intelligence, this idea of AI systems that can learn and adapt ethically, they're really opening doors here.
Okay, so that's what we're diving into today, this really exciting new way of thinking about AI translation, one that's built on, a really solid ethical foundation. We're exploring a future where AI doesn't just translate what is said, but how it's meant, and with a genuine sense of responsibility.
And right at the heart of this new thinking is something called the Core Values Framework. You can call it CVF.
CVF, okay.
Think of it like a set of ethical anchors, guiding principles for the AI as it tries to navigate all the complexities of language.
Okay, let's break down the CVF. The first principle sounds fundamental: non-maleficence and beneficence. So basically, do no harm and also promote good. How does that apply to AI translation?
Well, what's really interesting here is how it shifts the perspective. It moves us past just asking, is this word the right equivalent?
Right.
To thinking more deeply, what's the impact going to be of this specific translation?
Okay.
So the AI, guided by these principles, would actively try to avoid, say, harmful stereotypes or misrepresenting cultural nuances. The key question really becomes, is this translation kind? Is it fair? Is it actually helpful? Not just, is it technically correct?
So it's deeper than just avoiding mistakes in the language. It's actively trying to make sure the message doesn't cause harm or, push negative biases. That feels like a big step.
It is.
Okay, the next principle. Cultural respect and diversity with justice and fairness.
Yes, and this tackles a really critical issue. The risk that dominant languages or cultural viewpoints might accidentally steamroll others in the translation process.
Yeah, I can see that.
So the goal here is for the AI to consciously avoid just slapping one perspective onto the text. Instead, it should try to weave in the relevant cultural context, adapt the core message so it really resonates authentically in the target culture.
So capturing the essence, not just the words, and saying it in a way that feels right and respectful in that other context, that sounds like a tricky balance.
It is a delicate balance, you're right.
You're not changing the basic meaning, but you're carefully adapting how it's delivered.
Precisely, because if you just go word for word, that literal approach, it can often strip out the very cultural richness that gives language its depth and meaning.
Yeah.
In a way, it does a disservice to the original meaning and to the person receiving it. This framework really pushes the AI to see and respect those deeper cultural layers.
Which brings us to truthfulness and transparency. Now, wait a second. If the AI is adapting the message to be culturally fitting, how does it stay truthful? Isn't there a risk things get, lost in translation in a different way?
That's a really short question. The idea here is that even when the AI is doing what some people call transcreation.
Transcreation?
Yeah, it's like translation plus creation, a more nuanced, culturally aware approach. Even then, the process itself should ideally be transparent.
How so?
Well, maybe users understand that the output isn't just a raw transcription. It's an interpretation, yes, but one guided by clear ethical rules. Rules aimed at maximizing clarity and understanding across cultures.
So it's about being clear about the AI's goal. Genuine understanding and respect, even if that means going beyond a super literal translation.
Huh?
And the last CVF principle, sustainability and long-term responsibility.
Right. This one kind of zooms out, asks us to think about the long-term effects of AI translation on, well, global communication as a whole.
Okay.
Will the AI's choices in language tend to build bridges, foster understanding, or could they, maybe subtly, reinforce existing divisions through hidden biases in the words it chooses? It's about the AI acting responsibly in the global conversation.
Wow. Okay, so the CVF gives us the why, the ethical compass.
Yeah.
But how does the AI actually do this? When it's looking at a piece of text, that's where the contemplator framework fits in, is that right?
Exactly right. The CF is the how. It describes the internal thought process the AI would need.
Okay.
And the first part is exploration over conclusion and depth of reasoning. So
Right.
instead of just grabbing the first translation that looks okay,
Yeah.
the AI would actively explore multiple options, different ways to phrase things. It would dig into various cultural interpretations, really weigh the ethical pros and cons of different
It
choices.
sounds almost human. Like how a really good human translator works. They don't just grab the first
Yeah.
word, right? They live with the text, consider all the layers.
That's a perfect analogy. The AI would, in effect, live with the text, explore possibilities before landing on a translation that really fits the core values framework.
Okay, and the second part of this CF, thinking process and persistence.
This suggests the AI isn't just passively processing. It would have an internal process, almost like it's questioning itself.
Like an internal dialogue.
Precisely. It would involve questioning its own assumptions, maybe recognizing where it's uncertain, and constantly refining its understanding.
And if it hits a tricky part, a really complex or sensitive bit of text.
It wouldn't just give up and offer something superficial. It would persist, keep contemplating, keep processing until it finds a solution that's not just linguistically okay, but also ethically sound.
So putting these two frameworks together,
Mm.
the CVF giving the values, the CF providing the method, what's the really big shift here? What are the deeper implications?
Well, I think if we step back and look at the big picture, the AI changes from just being a tool, like a dictionary, to becoming more like a partner in communication. It stops being just about processing words. It becomes about translating meaning, translating intent, and so importantly, translating respect across cultural lines.
Yeah.
The real goal is building those bridges of understanding, bridges that aren't just linguistically okay, but are ethically strong and truly culturally sensitive.
It really does sound like developing this kind of AI goes way beyond just clever coding. It feels like it's about deliberately embedding our own, deeply human values into these systems as they get more powerful.
Absolutely. Teaching AI to translate not just accurately, but with, let's say, kindness and cultural awareness, it's not just a nice idea. It feels like a concrete step towards the ethical growth of more advanced AI, this living intelligence concept. The real breakthrough here isn't just the algorithmic sophistication, but the depth of the ethical framework that's guiding it.
So if we were to boil it right down, the key takeaway is this huge shift, moving away from just literal word-for-word translation towards something that's ethically grounded, focused on conveying the real idea, the intent behind it, and that crucial cultural context.
Exactly. It's about looking past the surface of the words to the deeper meaning and making sure our communication actually build understanding and respect between cultures.
And that really leaves us with a big thought to chew on, doesn't it? How could this kind of ethically smart AI translation change not just how we talk globally, but maybe even how we understand each other as people? And what other shifts in society might happen, maybe ones we haven't even thought of, when technology starts to genuinely get and respect all those cultural details that make us who we are.
It's definitely something profound to consider, where this could lead.